Hello, my name is Bonnie and this is my channel, A Knitter Obsessed. This is my knitting podcast where I talk about all things knitting currently going on in my life. And this is a very special episode because this is my everything that I knit in 2024 video. So as you can see, I have these two lovely stacks of knits behind me. We're going to be going through everything in them. There are quite a few knits that I no longer have with me because I did a good bit of gift knitting this year, which I hadn't planned to really do any gift knitting this year, and then at the end of the year I had still given away quite a few things. So I have pictures of everything and I will be putting them up as I go, and we are going to try and go through this fairly rapid fire because I have 31 finished objects this year, which is so many finished objects. So we're going to have to go through very quickly, otherwise we will be here all day, and I don't think anybody wants that. So a quick disclaimer before we get into it, this is by far the most productive I have ever been in my knitting. And there are a few reasons for that, and a huge part of it is that I ended up leaving my job partway through this year and going back to school. But my school is online, and so I was doing it from home, and so I still had a lot of time at home and a lot of downtime where I was able to get a lot of knitting in. This is not necessarily like a sustainable pace for me. All of the time and going forward. So if it seems like a lot of finished objects to you, it seems like a lot of finished objects to me is all I'm saying. Like, I'm not trying to I'm not bragging about my finished objects or anything like that and saying like, oh, look how much I knit. I'm more interested in this as sort of like, it's interesting to kind of get a sense of what your actual style is when you see everything like put together. And I know for me, I'm a little surprised by, the collection of things I decided to knit. I don't know why I'm surprised, but just it's a lot more stockinette than I expected, a lot more basics. I'm really happy with all of the colors I chose. Like, you really start to get a sense of like your own palette and your own style. And also like just a way to look back on the things that you've learned. Like, there are definitely a couple projects that I think could have been done better. And I've learned from those, and I've been taking those lessons through with me through the rest of the year. And it's, it's a nice reflection on that, as well as a good way to see how things have worn over time. So there are quite a few projects I might have been really happy with at the beginning, but maybe are not my favorite at this point, and that's also very interesting to reflect on. So that's the intention behind this. It's just for fun. I've been watching videos where people have made like way more than me, and videos where people have made way less, and it's all about just whatever we're able to knit that year, and to be thankful for the amount of knitting that we did get done. So I just wanted to put that quick disclaimer in because I was quite shocked by the piles that are behind me. It surprised me. I was like, oh my goodness. And they were like tipping over as I tried to make them and everything. It's out of hand. But with that, like I said, we are going to jump into it really quickly and just get going. I do have my iPad with me, which I will be checking throughout this video because I do not have the details for all 31 projects memorized. And then I will give a couple of quick stats right now, but I will have a couple of more fun detailed stats at the very end. So if you're interested in sort of like the numbers side of things, feel free to stick to the end. I'll also put timestamps in at the bottom so you can jump around as you wish. But just for the quick overview of basically what I knit. This year, like I said, there were 31 items. Of that, 8 were sweaters, which includes the one cardigan that I had this year because I didn't want to make like a separate category just for one cardigan. 5 were like more summer type of tops like tees or tanks. 3 were hats. 4 were cowls. 4 were blankets. 2 were socks. And 5 I kind of classified as other. So those were mostly like really small, really quick knits that don't really make sense in another category, which will make sense when we get there. Of all of those, 11 of them I no longer have. So 10 were gift knits and 1 was a sample knit. And so, like I said, I will put up pictures. I will say as a spoiler right now, all of the other category and all of the blankets were gifted. So I don't actually physically have anything from those 2 categories, but yeah. And yeah, like I said, we'll get into the rest of the numbers at the end. I have like knit times and like yarn weight choices and stuff like that, but we will save that for later in case you are just here for the knits. So I got my Ravelry page up with all of my projects. If you are interested in more details about these projects, I will have my Ravelry pages for each one linked down below, and you can go there for more information. And I am really good about, I like logging everything on my Ravelry pages. Any mods I make, all the yarns I use. The one that I am really bad at logging and I'm hoping to get better at in the upcoming year is yardage, and like yarn, like amount of yarn used is not something that I really tracked this year, so I don't have a ton of information on that. But what I will be going over for all of them is the pattern, the designer name, the yarn I used, if it's a garment, the positive ease that I ended up achieving. I went through and measured all those last night, so that way you can kind of gauge how the fit would work if you were to knit it. And then just what my thoughts on the project are, both when I knit it and now after I've worn it a little bit. And then we'll move on. We're gonna try and do this rapid fire. I have podcast episodes for every single one of these projects on my channel, and they should all be found I have a playlist called Knitting Podcast 2024, and any of the projects that I knit in 2024 will have videos in that playlist. Going forward, I will make a new playlist for 2025, so that way when I do everything I knit in 2025, it'll have the same thing. It'll have its own playlist with all of the knitting podcasts in it. So that's how I'm organizing this. But my very first one, I guess I didn't need to stand up because it's not one that I have. I started it off with one of my blanket knits. And so the first thing I knit was Oskar's blanket, which is a pattern from Knit Picks, and is unfortunately not a pattern that is available at this point. I have tried to find it. It's no longer on Knit Picks. I can't find it anywhere else on the internet. I actually messaged the designer on Ravelry, but I never did hear back. And so unfortunately, I don't think this pattern is available for you to knit, which is a shame because it is a lovely pattern. But this is, the full pattern name is Oskar's Blanket, Plain and Simple, and it's a pattern by Linn, Sajdak. And it's this gorgeous blanket. I knit it in Knit Picks Cotton, which is a DK weight yarn. It's a cotton and linen blend, as the name suggests, and I knit it in the colorway Flamingo, which is this really lovely light pink. But I absolutely love this pattern. It has these really beautiful like traveling slip stitches that make these diagonal stripes that travel along the blanket. It is fully reversible, so both sides look gorgeous. It's nice and lightweight. It's a nice weight with the cotton and linen. I think it's really like satisfying feeling. And then it's completely machine washable and dryable, which was the idea because I was giving this to a friend for her baby. So this is a baby blanket. I did knit I've knit 2 others of these, which have also gone to the same friend for her other 2 kids. So this was the third of 3. So all of her kids have a matching Oskar's blanket. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. I would knit this again. At the beginning of the year, I was saying I would not knit it again because I'd knit it so many times, but at this point, I've had a break. I would knit this again. I really like it. I started this on October 1st, 2023, and I finished it January 14th, 2024. So I did most of the knitting in 2023. But this is my first finished object. I have no idea how it wore because this was for a friend, and so I don't know what it looks like at this point, but that was my first finished object. All right, my next finished object is my first ever knit sweater. So this is my first garment that I've ever knit. I have been knitting for most of my lives, but before that I was mostly just making like blankets and small accessories. And so I decided that 2024 was going to be the year that I branched into sweaters and other garments. So the very first one, this is the first sweater by Lizzie Hester, which I thought was very appropriate for literally being my first sweater. And this is knit with knitting for olive merino, held with a strand of their soft silk mohair, both in the colorway Dusty Sea Green. I knit the size 4 on this, and I will say I knit it too big. This is really oversized on me. It has 10 inches of positive ease, which is within what the pattern called for, but it's too big for my personal taste, and if I'd gone down a size, I would probably get more wear out of it. That being said, this is the nicest fabric. Like, this sweater feels so good on. I wear it around my house all of the time. This is like my lounging. This is a sweatshirt for me. Like, I just put it on and watch TV, and I absolutely love it. I love that it has these lovely balloon sleeves that are in the fisherman's rib, and they're tight enough that I can roll them up if I'm doing the dishes or something, which is very helpful. It has this folded collar, which I did thread some elastic through because the first time I wore this sweater, the neckline grew out real big. But a little bit of elastic fixed it right up, so I really like it. And then it is a little cropped, and so I usually wear it tucked in like this. You can see these are high-waisted jeans, so like here's my belly button. So it is quite cropped. Excuse me. But yeah, like I said, too big, but I still wear it quite a lot because I really, really like it, and it is just unbelievably comfortable, and I really like it, and I think it was a really first good project. It's just a basic raglan setup, and I found it really easy to follow the pattern. The pattern's very set up for beginners. It has a lot of resources in it, and it's really, really straightforward. So I honestly am really proud of the job I did on this. I did sewn bind-offs for all of my bind-offs, and yeah. And for as much as I've worn this, because like I said, I don't wear it out and about that much, but I wear it around the house all of the time, there is like zero pilling. Like I've pulled a couple of little fuzzballs off here and there, but nothing crazy. And yeah, I think this yarn combo just wears really, really nicely, and I'm really happy with it. So for the timeline on this, I started this on December 25th, 2023. So this is my Christmas cast on, and I completed it on January 20th, 2024. So it took me a little under a month, and I thought, despite being a little too big, I felt like it was a really great accomplishment for my first sweater. So for my next finished object, this one was my this is my second gift knit of the year. So I went into this year wanting to do less gift knitting because I had almost exclusively gift knit before this year. But within my first 3 projects, 2 of them were gift knit. So I wasn't doing great on that goal in the beginning, but that's okay. This is my Boon Island hat that I knit for my husband. So I'll get a little closer so you can see. This is in broken rib hat. So it has this really lovely texture. And it's just simple. There's no designated brim for it or anything. The other side does also have, it's a different texture, but it does look quite nice. And so when I borrow this from him, I fold it up so it has a little brim, and I quite like it. And then it has very neat looking decreases at the top, which I like. I really like this design. It used less than 1 skein of yarn, and I knit this in Knit Picks High Desert Tweed in the colorway Boot Leather on a US 7 needle. So this is like a worsted weight project. It knit up really fast. This is a pattern by Aimee Alexander. I started this on January 21st and I finished it on January 24th. So a 3-day knit. I really liked it. And I did take the time. I did a tubular cast on at the bottom. So that probably took the longest out of everything. So I had only done a couple of tubular cast ons. So it took me a couple of tries. But yeah, my husband really likes it. He says it's really comfortable. He wears it here and there, but it hasn't been a particularly cold winter, so he hasn't gotten a lot of wear out of it this season. So we'll see, but I do know that he likes it. So next up is my favorite flannel by Alicia Plummer. And this is one of my favorite knits of the entire year. Spoiler alert. I adore this sweater. I've worn the heck out of it. I find it so easy to wear. So I knit this out of yarn that I found on Etsy. It was from Hilltop Fiber Farm, and it was from her sheep Evie, which was a Gotland and Merino hybrid. And this is the natural color, so it's undyed, and it's got a little sticker on it. But it's this lovely like silvery gray color. I love it so much. I thought that it was very thick and thin yarn with a lot of texture to the yarn itself, and so I felt it would really complement the texture of the favorite flannel, which it has this all over like Andalusian stitch with knits and pearls, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I love it so much. I did have a slightly tighter gauge than the pattern called for, but instead of sizing up on the needle size, I kept it the same and calculated it out, and I ended up with a garment that had just a little less positive ease, which is actually what I wanted. So after my favorite flannel, I was trying to knit up myself a couple of things that fit a little closer to the body so that I would get a little bit more use out of them. And yeah, fit-wise, I think this is absolutely perfect. It came out with 2.5 inches of positive ease, and it's just, oh, it's so good. This is another raglan design. I did crop the sleeves, so it's got more of a 3/4 length, and the sleeves are quite fitted, which again, my style, I like it a lot. The only thing with this is that it has pilled quite a lot. It was fairly loosely spun yarn. Like I said, very thick and thin, very like, you could tell it came from a farm, like it was fairly rustic. And so it has pilled quite a bit with wear. And then the fuzziness from the Gotland has sort of just kind of kept getting fuzzier and fuzzier as time has gone on. So it does sort of hide some of the texture of the sweater. I still think it looks really nice. I just need to depill it. And I haven't done that yet. So that's on me. Like, it's an easy fix, but it does pill, but I'm also not surprised by it. For timeline on this, I knit this. I started this January 28th and I finished it on February 11th. This one absolutely flew off the needles. I had a business trip that I went on while I was knitting this, and I ended up having a way more downtime than I thought I was going to have. The meeting I flew over for went by really quickly, and it was winter, like in Massachusetts. It was snowing. I'm from California. I don't do the snow, and so I kind of just stayed in the hotel room and binge TV and knit on this, and yeah, it might have been one of my fastest sweater knits ever so far. So, but yeah, I love this. I highly recommend it. I knit the size C, but I did knit it off gauge. So, you know, take with that what you will. But favorite knit, one of my favorite knits of the year. And I have plans to make more, like without a doubt. All right, next up, I knit the Shift by Andrea Mowry. So this is a cowl that you knit flat and then you seam in the back. So I knit this with 3 different colorways of spin cycle dyed in the wool, which is typically yarn that is a bit pricey for me. Like, I wouldn't usually splurge on that, except that I bought this when I was on that business trip in Massachusetts. And so one of the other ways I killed some time was by driving a little ways and going to a yarn store. And so I figured, because I'd sort of traveled for it and I had never seen spin cycle in person at that point, I figured it might as well splurge on it. So I love this. I don't wear it that often, just because I kind of forget that I own it. It's nothing wrong with the pattern. I have it tucked away in a corner and I sometimes forget about it. But every single time I do without fail, I get so many compliments on it. The 3 colors that I chose were Devilish Grin, Dream World, and Wololo. And I think they melded together really, really nicely. There's sections of like really low contrast, kind of up where everything was red at the same time. And there's areas of like pretty high contrast near the bottom. And I really, really like it. I think it came out super fun. It was really fun to knit. I had a great time with it. I would absolutely knit, maybe not another one of these, because I feel like, again, it's a fairly like statement-y kind of piece that I don't need more of. But I would like to knit more of Andrea Mowry's like other slip stitch and mosaic cowl designs. I think they're really fun. Also, I mean, I would absolutely work with spin cycle again. I love the yarn. It is about taking the plunge though, because it is pricey. So I'm really happy to have gotten to knit with it once, but I don't know how many more spin cycle projects are in my future. But I started this on February 11th and I finished it on March 14th. And so it did take a little bit of time. I'm not a monogamous knitter, so it got picked up and put down quite a bit. But absolutely love it. It's held up great. There are no problems with it, and it's fantastic. Next up is a pattern that I have never worn. This is my biggest flop of the year completely. I don't like it, and I probably will never wear it. It has nothing to do with the pattern. It is a lot of things sort of coming together to make an item that I am not a fan of. So this is the Musselburgh by Ysolda Teague. I'm sure if you're in the knitting world at all, you've heard of this pattern. It's one of the most famous out there. It is a double thick hat. So there are 2 sides, and as you can see, I did a little bit of color blocking with mine, which is a huge part of why I don't like it. I knit this in Brooklyn Tweed Puri, which is a discontinued yarn. It is a merino fingering weight yarn. And I don't really know the colors. Well, okay, let's see it. I have it down as alizarin for the red, but that was me guessing based off of what I saw online. I didn't have the band anymore, so I was just sort of trying to color match as best as I could. However, for the peachy pink color that's in it, that is the color Mesa. So I do have a little bit of that left, which, okay, we'll get into it. So anyways, I had this Brooklyn Tweed yarn in my stash for a very long time. I bought it for some hats a couple of years back, and they ended up not looking good, and I frogged them, and I didn't like want to keep trying with them. And so I figured I was just trying to use up the yarn. I was really trying to get out of my stash. I was trying to have like a really easy stockinette project I could work on at work, on my lunch breaks. And for that, this was great. I mean, it's very mindless. And so my plan was to just make a red hat and have it go all the way down. But I quickly became aware that I did not have 100 grams like I thought I did. I definitely had 50. And I was 100% going to run out of yarn. And then I wasn't 100% sure how much of the pink that I had, because I had bought it at the same time I bought the red, and I think I didn't know that I had this other skein. It was like hiding and I didn't know about it. And so basically this whole thing was me just trying to make the yarn last. But I ran out of the pink that I had before I reached the top. I used more red for the decreases. And basically what I resulted in is just a really hard to style hat. I also think I made it slightly too large. Like the whole thing is just a little wide for my head. And I have a fairly big head, but it just doesn't fit great. So my idea that I'd been hoping for was just an all red beanie. And I like beanies with a brim, but as you can see, you can't fold it up because you see the other side. So I can't wear it with the brim in a way that I think looks good. Let's see. So it's just got to be really slouchy. And like, it's not bad. It's just not the most comfortable feeling. Like it just feels too big, if that makes sense. But I mean, I don't think it looks bad. I just think it's not comfortable. And then on the other side, the red crown looks absolutely dorky. Like I'm just not a fan. And this pink is not really my color so much. And then this one I could brim up. But again, it's just, I don't love the red crown. So like maybe if I ripped out the top and I finished the crown in the rest of the Mesa color that I found, maybe, but I still am just, I don't think I'd wear it. I don't think this will ever be something that I love. I'm contemplating just donating this one and just being okay with it. Because it's a nicely made hat. It's really thick and squishy and warm. And like I did a good job with it, I feel, but I don't think it's something I'll ever wear. I have other hats I like better. That being said, I'm not opposed to making another Musselburgh. I would just plan my yarn better and I would make a different size. So quick stats on it and then we'll move on. I started this on January 26th and I finished it on March 23rd. So it was a long time knitting on this. It is a slog. It is a lot of stockinette. And I think at this point in my life, I would be okay with that because there's a lot of like, when I'm in school and stuff, stockinette is really good for me because I can do a lot of work on it. And I could get maybe one of my more variegated yarns and make a really cool Musselburgh. But at this point in my life when I made it, it was just a slog. And I knit the whole thing on US 2 needle. So yeah, it was a lot of knitting. That being said, no pilling, but this also hasn't been worn. Moving on to the next sweater. So this is my Bibliophile 2 by Alicia Plummer. Alicia Plummer is the only designer all year that I knit 2 separate patterns from. So I did repeat a couple of smaller designs twice this year that we'll see later. Nothing that I've shown so far, but she is the only one that I actually knit 2 separate things from. And I think she's one of my favorite designers. I absolutely love the way her things fit and like the practicality of them. Like I think she is fantastic and her patterns are so nice to follow. But this is my Bibliophile 2. I knit this in Harrisville Designs Nightshades in the colorway Fever Dream. And you can see when you get up close, try and get it to focus. It's got these really beautiful, it's like a black yarn with these like red tones going through it. It's really fun to look at. It always kind of makes me think of like lava rock or something. But this is another just really simple raglan. This has another double folded collar, which I really like. And this one you bind off as you do the folding. And so it's this really nice tight seam. So I haven't had this one stretch out at all. The yarn is woolen spun and it is quite rustic feeling, but it just feels hardy. Like, I don't know, it feels, as I was knitting it, I was thinking of this as like my adventure sweater. Like I would wear this when I'm camping or when I'm hiking or like this sweater would get used. And so far that's been true. I love this. It's one of my go-tos when I just like need a sweatshirt, but like I don't want to feel too precious about my knitwear. This one is perfect. It has pilled a little bit, but nothing unreasonable for how much I've worn it. You can just see a few of the little fuzzies, but I mean, it's not bad. It will clean off really easily. I just need to depill my knits and I haven't done it yet, so I'm not worried about it. I knit it just a teensy bit cropped. So like, this is my belly button. Again, it goes a little past, but I think that's perfect. And then the sleeves are a little long, and I love it. I love it so much. It's so good. So this on me has let's see, 3.5 inches of positive ease. This one was really interesting. Before I blocked it, I was really thinking I was making a mistake because it was so stiff and like just dense feeling, and like it just felt bad. Like I was like, oh, this is gonna be a horrible sweater. And then I blocked it and the woolen spun yarn bloomed like crazy. And it's not like, I'm not gonna say it has like a lot of drapery and things. It's a very lightweight sweater, but it filled everything out. My stitches evened out, and it feels so lovely. Like I really do love this sweater so much. And I already have plans to knit another one. I want to do one in her fingering weight. The original Bibliophile is a fingering weight one, and I would love to knit another one in a slightly softer yarn so I could have like a Bibliophile for every occasion. But cannot recommend this pattern enough. I think it's fantastic. I started this on January 4th and I finished it on March 21st. So it's a little bit of a longer knit, but this was my work project when I wasn't working on my Musselburgh. So it was something I picked up for like a half an hour a day, and I put it down and I moved on. So yeah, another raglan sweater. I started off the year with pretty much only making raglans because I was intimidated by other sweater constructions. So this is one of the greats. This is one of my favorites of the year. I really do think I got very lucky with my first few, sweater projects in a row. Like I really like all of them. Okay, I was just checking the footage because I'm planning to do this video in like sections, and then I'll double check that like, my audio is still good and like nothing crazy's happened with the video as I go, just so I don't get like 2 hours into filming and then realize that all of the footage is unusable, because I've had podcasts where that's happened before. And I did notice I'd forgotten there, you can see there's like a little bit of like weirdness on this sweater. I spilled some food on it the other day and I haven't had a chance to wash it yet because I knew I was going to be filming this video and it wouldn't have dried in time. So that's not the sweater itself, that's just me needing to wash this, which is a little, gross. I forgot about it. And so that's what that is. It'll come out right away with wool wash and whatnot. It's not a big deal, but it's not, don't take it as like wear on the like yarn or anything like that. This is a me problem. All right, now we're getting into some of my lighter weight knits. So this is my Ranunculus, my very off gauge Ranunculus. So the Ranunculus is meant to be an incredibly oversized sweater with, lots of positive ease. This, when I measured it, has about 0 ease. So if anything, it has a teensy bit of negative ease right around my bust. So this is knit in Miss Babs Yet, which is a lace weight yarn. Let's see what the makeup of it is, because I don't remember. 65% merino and 35% silk. So it is a very, very soft yarn. And it is like heavy lace, but like lace weight yarn. I knit this on a US 7 needle, which is 3 sizes down from what the actual pattern calls for. The Ranunculus calls for US 10. So I went down, quite a bit from a 6mm to a 4.5mm because I just did not like the gauge at a higher needle. It was just way too see-through and like it just looked messy. And so I like this because this is definitely still see-through. It looks really nice over like dresses and stuff, but it does like look like its own garment, if that makes sense. It doesn't look like, mesh. I really enjoyed knitting this yoke. I did end up having to knit it twice because I made like a pretty ridiculous error in it the first time I tried and ended up just ripping the whole thing back. But luckily this is a very fast knit, and so I still, even knitting it up twice, I finished it in just a few weeks. So I cast this on April 2nd and I finished it on April 24th. So a fairly quick knit. I pretty much followed the pattern exactly. I did the wider neckline, but because I was so off gauge, it is pretty much fitting like the close fit neckline. I did all of the short rows for the boat neck, and I find that it fits really nicely. I did the cap sleeves where you just bind off as you're knitting them, so there's no sleeve knitting at all. And yeah, it is fairly cropped, but then with the 3 inches of twisted ribbed called for in the pattern. So it comes right to the tops of my high-waisted jeans. And it looks really good with like skirts and dresses and stuff like that. This has been, according to my husband, one of my favorite things of his that I've knitted. Like every time I put it on, he's just loves it. He's like, oh my gosh, it's so impressive. And I love the color. This is in the colorway Plum. And this is the first of a few garments where I went down a little bit of a hand-dyed rabbit hole. So we're going to see, I think, a few in a row here where I discovered Miss Babs and I discovered some other hand dyers, and I got a little excited in the middle of the year and maybe spent a little too much money on yarn. But I do love it. The only problem with this is how it's worn, and it's pretty much my fault because this is very much so a summery type of garment. It's lacy, it's at a very loose gauge, it's short sleeved, it's cropped, and I knit it in wool. And so it is felted quite a bit under the arms, and there is some pilling and fuzziness, and it's starting to look a little worn and it needs a little bit of love. So I need to depill this one as well, but nothing's gonna unfelt it. And some felting is expected. It's just, it got a little extreme. It's starting to get a little extreme, and so I just need to be a little careful about how I wear it. I still think it looks lovely, but I do think if I knit more of these, I would probably be a little smarter with my yarn choice. So, all right, my hair's gonna be looking crazy by the end of this video, but that is fine. It's not why we're here. So next up is another summer piece, another Miss Babs yarn. So this is my Knus Light by Elsebeth Judith. This is knit in Miss Babs Avon, which is a 2-ply fingering weight yarn. It is also a merino and silk blend. I don't remember the percentages though. And this is in the colorway Calypso, which was a limited edition color, and it's this really crazy bright blue that I really, really like. I don't wear this shirt very much. I'm disappointed in it, and a huge part of it is just it's too short. It's really cropped. It barely gets to my high-waisted jeans. And I think the reason for it is that I probably needed some sort of like bust darts or bust shaping in this, or it needed to be more oversized to accommodate, because it does get kind of hung up and it just rides up in the front just a little bit, despite there being tons of short rows in the back to like lengthen the back. So I needed something to lengthen the front a little bit to get it over my chest. It also, I wish I just realized how short it was going to come out from the beginning, because in theory you could lengthen it with this last stockinette section, but then it would be unbalanced. And so what I would have preferred to do is lengthen both the stockinette section in the middle and the one at the end by about like an inch each, so that, you know, it dropped it down in a more proportional way. And I'm not willing to like reknit the whole body of a fingering weight top to lengthen it. Like, it just sort of is what it is. It's still cute. I do still wear it. I just find this harder to style because of the proportions of it. It's not the most comfortable for me. In addition, it does have lace like right in the middle. So I, have to wear camisole under this, and it makes a wool t-shirt that I have to layer is a little hard to style sometimes depending on the weather. So that being said, it is pilling quite a bit despite not getting a ton of wear. So it is very soft yarn. I'm not that surprised, but it does, it has a very fuzzy look to it. And then this one also has quite a bit of felting under the arms, which happened very quickly despite, like I said, not wearing it much. So it's just a little bit of like a fragile fabric for a summer knit, and I probably wouldn't pick it again for another summer knit. So that's on me. I'm learning. I do think it looks really pretty, like hung up. I really like this top, but I'm just not a huge fan of actually how it, works in the real world. But I started this on April 28th and I finished it on May 19th. The whole thing's knit on a US 4 needle. And yeah, nothing against the pattern itself. The pattern itself is really well written. There's options to do just the textured yoke. With a stockinette body, I chose to do the texture all over. And I honestly could see myself making another one of these. I would just make a lot of adjustments to the pattern. So I would add in some bust shaping. I would probably change the neckline a little bit and maybe add like an I-cord edge. I would lengthen the whole thing, obviously, and I would probably knit a size up so it has a little bit more positive ease, because this one has 0 inches of positive ease. So like it could use a little bit, and that'll probably help the fit quite a bit too. All right, next one, I'm just gonna put over the top of my Knus Light to minimize changing, but this is my Arthur cardigan by Tricot Design MCL. This is, I promise, it's the last of the Miss Babs projects. Like I said, I just went a little crazy. This is knit in Miss Babs Yowza in the colorway Eternity, held with a strand of Miss Babs Moonglow, which is their silk mohair, in the colorway Ziggy Stardust. And all of this crazy variegation is coming from the mohair. So the Ysolda is a superwash merino, and that is just a beautiful, super dark blue that, you know, provided the base tone for this. And then the Ysolda is what had, not the Ysolda, the Ziggy Stardust is what had all of these yellows and greens and fuchsias and purples, and I really, really liked it. I called it the Partygan when I knit it. This is a drop shoulder cardigan. It was my first drop shoulder. I finally took the plunge and tried it, and it was a lot of fun to knit. It's got, the button band is knit as you go, so it's just like the vertically ribbed 1x1 button band. It's not double knit at all. 4 buttons. I went with metal buttons that I found off of Etsy. It is delightfully oversized. I was trying to make a very cozy cardigan, and I think I succeeded. And yeah, I absolutely love this one. I think it's a bit of a statement, but in like, because the whole thing's dark, it's not too much of a statement, you know, like it still looks really cute with a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and I really, really like this one. This was started on April 26th and finished on June 25th, so about 2 months to finish. And yeah, I think this one's great. It has about 9 inches of positive ease, so it has quite a bit, but I think for one, a drop shoulder, you just need more positive ease to start off with, and then, like I said, I was going for cozy cardigan vibes, so I really like it. Sleeves got like a little long and blocking, which is what I wanted, like it's perfect, and then it goes all the way down to, you know, the bottom of my hips, kind of mid-butt, and it's just a very wearable size, and I'm very happy with this one. And yeah, this is another one I wear around the house all the time. I've worn it out and about a few times, but being a DK plus a mohair for a worsted weight gauge, it is very warm. So I could not wear this until, you know, winter came, which has only been recently. And even now that winter's came, we've had sort of a very, very wet winter by California standards. And so I haven't worn this a ton out and about, but I have worn it, and I definitely wear it around the house all the time, and I haven't seen any pilling or any wear tear or anything, and it's been great. All right, next up is my first pair of socks that I have ever made. And these are the I'm So Basic socks by Summerly Designs. I knit these using Knit Pick Stroll in their hand-painted base, and then I had some contrasting colors using their mini skeins and some other tonals. I didn't have the names of them. So, like I said, first ever socks. These are vanilla socks. They have a heel flap and gusset, and I made the 72 stitch one because that's the size I thought I'd be when I measured my foot, but these are too big. I do still wear them. They're very comfortable, but I would wear them more as house socks. They are not super comfortable in my shoes. So I would like to knit myself another pair in the 64 stitch count so that I can have wearable wool socks, but I have not done that yet. So these are my first ones ever. I am very happy with them. They were a fun learning process. And I do think, let me see if I can find, no, it looks like it blocked out. I had really been dissatisfied with some of my like decreases on these, and I thought they looked quite messy. But honestly, they've gone through the washer and dryer now quite a few times, and I think it's all sort of just worked its way out, and it looks good now. So I am happy with these. They were fun to knit, and I did like the process. But I cast these on July 12th, and I finished them on August 6th. So, okay, next up, going back to summer knits. This is not how I would typically wear this one with the like camisole underneath, but I just, for ease, I'm gonna keep it going. And this is my Ilana Camisole by Masha Ziablakova. Sorry, I doubted myself for a second midway through the name. This is what I knit for flock for myself this year. And it is knit in Knitting for Olive Merino in the colorway Plum Clay, which I had in stash when I went to knit this. And I knit this real fast because I had the thought to knit it very close to flock. It was really fun to knit. I really liked the construction. You had to knit all 4 of like the little triangles first before you knit in the round. And then there was a lot of really nicely designed like bust shaping on this into the waist shaping that I think looks really flattering and looks really nice. I have some issues with this pattern, namely it is really, really not size inclusive at all, and I did not realize that until I bought it because I was just panicking about going to flock and it just spaced. And there are comparable patterns that are size inclusive. So I would not choose to knit this one again. I might knit a similar pattern that is more available to everybody, because this one is like, it really doesn't go up far at all. This does have a bit of negative ease on me, and it has a bit more negative ease than the pattern intended. So it has about 5.5 inches of positive ease. And I do feel for myself when I'm wearing it that I typically want to have like an overshirt or something, because it does feel just a little bit exposing for me. Like it's quite a low V. It is like the teensiest bit sheer just because of all the positive ease stretching the stitches out. And then it is quite cropped, so it hits right at my belly button. And it hits right at my belly button. I knit twice the number of repeats in the body as called for in the pattern, and it still just hits my belly button. So keep that in mind if you choose to knit this pattern. It's very cropped, so just maybe have some extra yarn on hand if you need to lengthen it. Overall, I do really think it looks quite nice. I did bind off too tight, and it feels like it's like threatening to snap every time I take it on and off. So maybe for next summer I'll redo the bind off. We'll see. I do like this. I wear this a lot with like an overshirt over it and a pair of high-waisted jeans, and I think it's quite cute. So it would probably be worth redoing the bind off and making it a bit looser. So I cast this on July 26th, and I cast it off on August 6th. So like I said, very quick knit. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I will say this for the knitting for all of merino, I see like no wear or tear on this at all. It's quite nice. I'm not saying I wore this every day or anything, but I did wear it quite a few times. I did wear it for all of flock walking around, and it's fine. It's just it looked good. All right, this is another favorite of the year. This is the Basic Boatneck tank by True Summer Knits. I actually did this as a test knit. It was my first test knit and only test knit that I've ever done. And it was a really fun experience. I did enjoy just sort of the like camaraderie of the test knit, and it just felt like a big knit along. So I thought that was super fun. This is also knit and knitting for olive merino, held single. This is leftover yarn from my first sweater. So this is in the color Dusty Sea Green. This is again not like the bra situation I would use. Usually I just crisscross it in the back and it's fine and you don't see the straps at all. But for ease today, we're just gonna keep the same straps we've been having all day. But this is, as the pattern suggests, it's just a really basic boat neck tank. So you start by knitting little tiny straps, and then you connect in the front, you knit the front panel, cast on for the back panel, knit that, cast, join under the arms, knit in the round. There is some waist shaping in the side, which I did a little more than the pattern called for, and I would probably do even a little more again, because it doesn't have a ton of negative ease on me. It's at 2.5 inches of negative ease. So it's nothing crazy. I think it could be brought in just a teensy bit and it would fit even more perfect. But overall, I love this. This is another favorite for the year. I wear this all the time. It's great in summer. It's great under like overshirts in the fall as a transition piece. Like, it's nice and soft. It fits well. It's flattering. Like, I have nothing bad to say about this. It has a rolled hem, a folded hem, which I really like. And I just bound it off sort of using like Jenny's surprisingly stretchy method, where you just add yarn overs, and it's perfect. And then I cord finishing all along the edges, which I think just came out super neat and tidy. And yeah, I love this. I have nothing bad to say about it. I already have the yarn to make more because it's just great. And I feel like it suits me very well. So I can't say anything bad about this. But yeah, I started this on August 6th and I finished it on I started this on August 9th and I finished it on September 6th. So about a month to knit. I think I could knit it faster. Part of what slowed me down was it just being a test knit and being a little unsure about some of the techniques. So I think if I did another one now, it would happen very, very quickly. All right, on to the second pile. There are less things in the second pile than there were in the first. So just if you're starting to feel like this is going on a long time, it is, but also we're getting there. This is my sweater number 14 V-neck by My Favorite Things Knitwear. This is knit in Noro Rybka in the colorway 10. This is a wool, silk, and alpaca blend. I don't remember the exact breakdown, but this is yarn that I picked up in Japan when we went in May of this last year. So I did end up having to order another ball when I got home and used about half of it. So I still have about half a ball of this, but I just wanted to find something that would really show off the yarn and let it shine. And it is like a bulky yarn. It's also very thick and thin, single ply. Like it's, if you worked with Nora yarn, you can know it can be kind of interesting to work with. And so I just wanted to find a project that would let the yarn do the talking. And so I settled on this one. And so this one is very big. I was going for super cozy, just snuggle up and big hug kind of sweater. So I think I did it. This has 15.5 inches of positive ease, so like is big. There's no decreases in the sleeves, so you can knit them with like a 16-inch circular the whole way through, which is quite nice. 2x2 ribbing on everything. Big split hem that's a little longer in the back, and then a folded collar for the V-neck. I love this. I seriously, this might be one of my most worn sweaters for the whole year. The point when it came in like absolutely clutch was when I was in Nutcracker early last month. We had a whole week of rehearsals and then the shows and all that, and for some reason theaters are always kept like freezing cold. And so I would have all of my dance stuff on, all of my warm-ups, and then I would wear this over the top of it, and it just kept me toasty and warm and like ready to go on stage at a minute's notice. And it could go, the neckline was big enough, it could go on and off over my hair and makeup. It was amazing. Like I think I want this for every single performance I ever do in the future. Like it's absolutely perfect. So yeah, this is, I don't have a ton to say about it. It was really straightforward and very simple project. I think the yarn's holding up nicely. It's got some fuzzies. It's got a little bit of pilling, but like nothing unreasonable. And like I said, I treat this one like a sweatshirt. Like it's, I just throw it all over the house and like my dog snagged pieces of it and I've had to fix it. It's just been like, it's been through the ringer and it's holding up great. And yeah, the only probably negative thing about it is that if it's not cold enough for it, the alpaca does get a teensy bit itchy, but it's also a bulky weight, like huge sweater. So I tend to only want to put it on when it's cold anyways. So, but for timing on this, I cast this on August 15th and I cast it off on September 16th. So about a month for the whole thing. All right, so I'm going to tease you a little bit. I put this on, but I'm going to hold off talking about it because I just realized that I completely jumped over 2 of the blankets that I gifted. And so I want to go back and cover them because the blankets are some of my favorite things that I knit this year. But because I don't have them in my pile, I just sort of forgot about them. So going all the way back to February really quick. I knit the Lovey Blanket by Sandi Rosner in Knit Picks Brava Tweed in the colorways Wren, which is a like white-ish color, and Heron, which is a blue. And I absolutely loved this. It's knit in the round, but it's knit in the round with garter, so there's quite a lot of purling. And it does have this very beautiful mosaic edging and then this little sawtooth edging that you do as you bind off. And overall, I just think it looked gorgeous. It looked more complicated than it was to knit. I felt like it looked fancier than it was. The Knit Picks Brava was a great yarn. I felt like it held up really well when I washed and dried it, and it was really, really soft. I don't love the feel on my hands of knitting with acrylic, but I absolutely will do it for baby knits because I need them to be easy to take care of. So I knit the medium size, and it was it was a big size. Like that kid will be able to use it for a while, which is what I like to do for baby blankets. I like to make them a little oversized so that, you know, they can grow up with it and it's not just like while they're in a crib kind of size. But yeah, I don't have a ton to say on this. I'll be putting up some pictures as I talk about it, I hope. But it was great. I would absolutely knit this again in a heartbeat. So, and I haven't heard on like how it's held up or anything like that, but I was confident it would hold up well based on, you know, how it felt when I was working with it. So highly, highly recommend the pattern. I think it's faster to knit than it looks, and it is just like a high impact knit. And then the other one is another baby blanket. This is the correct order. So I finished this right after my sweater number 14 and before this one. But it is a self-drafted pattern. This was my baby blanket that I came up with for my niece Luna, who was born earlier this year. This is knit in Drops Paris, which is 100% cotton, like Aran weight yarn, worsted to Aran weight. And I did it in the colorway. Oh, it did not put what color it was. It was the very bright yellow. I think it was like dandelion, but it might have been Daffodil. I think it was Daffodil. Yes. So in the colorway Daffodil. And then I knit the whole thing up. I just did like a little texture with like some zigzags on it. And I was laughing at myself because in the yellow color and with the zigzags, it very much gave me Crayola crayon box vibes. But I like that. I'm okay with it. And then just to add a little bit of pizzazz, I grabbed a contrasting color. It was still Drops Paris in the colorway light yellow. And I did some like crochet, surface crochet stripes. And then I did an I-cord finish. And I am really, really happy with how this one turned out. I think it's simple, but effective and just really, really cute. And, you know, all cotton for the baby, easy to wash and dry. So I cast this on September 3rd. And I finished on September 17th, which I have never, ever knit a blanket that fast. So I don't know how I did that. But yeah, it flew off the needles. It was really easy to do. So if you want to knit one of these for yourself, I do have everything that I did on my Ravelry page. And it was nothing fancy. I just sort of cast on some stitches and then did a number of repeats that I felt was the right length. So next up, back into garments. This is, I believe, my last like summery-ish top, and I wouldn't even really call this a summer top because this is very much more sweater feeling, but sleeveless top, I guess, is the right way to put this. But this is my Tonight top by Lily Kate France. I knit this in Treehouse Knit Spruce Sock in the colorway You Belong Here. Again, not the bra I would use. If you crisscross the straps, you can't see the bra at all, and it's easy. But this is, my goal was to have 0 inches of positive ease on this, which I did by knitting very slightly off gauge and making a couple of adjustments to my stitch counts under the arm. I came out with about 1/2 inch positive ease. So I'd say pretty good. I think I nailed it. But this is a mock neck tank top. It has double knitted finishings around the armholes, which use some short rows in order to curve the finishings really, really nicely and like naturally. It has 2x2 ribbing on the bottom and on the mock neck, and it has all sorts of short rows in it, like along the shoulders and stuff, to create just this absolutely perfect fitting garment. I love this. I like it a lot underneath like jackets. I usually, because I'm a millennial, do the French tuck with it, but I think this is stunning. The yarn is I think it was like 85% ultrafine superwash merino and 15% nylon, if I remember right, but I might be a little shaky on the percentages, but I know it was the ultrafine merino and the nylon. And I just love it in this like speckled, you know, colorway. I think it's gorgeous. I did have to alternate skeins on this because there were just some sections that were a little more speckled than others, and so I did work to kind of even them out. And I think for the most part, it worked. I mean, I'm sure there are little spots where there's like a bit more pooling and all that, but I think it's fine. And I just think the overall effect is really, really pretty. From afar, it just kind of looks like darks and lights. When you get up close, I don't know if the camera's gonna let me show. It's hard to see on film, but there's like pops of green and pops of orange. Like it is really quite colorful up close, and I really, really like it. So some stats. Like I said, I knit the size 3, and this has about 1/2 inch of positive ease on me, but I did knit it off gauge. So I think it was supposed to be like 26 stitches per 4 inches, and I had 28, and so I did make some math adjustments as I went. I used almost exactly 2 skeins of the yarn. I was actually pretty dang close to running out. I was playing some yarn chicken on this one, so, but I do think I got it just to the perfect length, and so I didn't want this cropped. I wanted it to actually like get down to my hip bones. I started this on August 15th, and I completed it on September 29th, so it is quite a lot of knitting on this one because it is fingering weight, and like I said, I didn't want it cropped, so it took a little while. But yeah, overall, I really like it. I've worn it quite a bit, not as much as I think I would like, but it just feels like, it's not formal. It is very casual, but like, I just feel very grown up when I wear it, if that makes sense. And so I feel like sometimes I wear, like if I just want to, I'm in the mood to just wear like a t-shirt or something, this isn't like something I would grab for. But if I want to feel just a little bit more grown up and a little bit more put together, this is something I grab for in a heartbeat. And overall, it's worn really nicely. I'm not seeing any pilling. There's like a little bit of fuzziness, but for how soft this yarn is, it's holding up like spectacularly, and I'm actually really impressed. I would really like to knit another one of these in like a dark charcoal color or a black. I feel like I would wear that all the time. So would absolutely knit again. in a heartbeat. All right, now we're getting into my era of accessory knitting. I had like a minute where I just felt like I needed to finish things. Like I needed that like hit of like quick completed projects. So I did quite a few in a row. First is this. This is the Cooler Side of Warm by Espace Tricot. This is just a really basic stockinette and ribbed cowl with a little bit of shaping to make the shoulders wider than the top of the neck. I knit this in yarn that I got at my local yarn shop. It's from Winter Sisters Farms. And it was just like wool. Like there was like no information on it. So it's in this really beautiful like gray brown natural color. It's about a worsted weight gauge. It's quite rustic. Like when I was knitting on it, my hands were feeling like a little greasy from the lanolin. And when I blocked it and washed all that out, it's still very rustic feeling, but it is very nice feeling. It's very warm. So it has this nice little split here, so it drapes really nicely in the front. And yeah, it's just a really nice warm cowl. I really, really like this. So this was fun to knit. It was easy. I was looking for something just quick and brainless. I cast this on September 24th and finished it October 3rd. So extremely fast knit. I don't know that I would knit another one necessarily because it just is a very warm, very, I don't know. It's just, I feel like having one and having it as a staple is enough in my wardrobe. So like nothing against the pattern. I just feel like one is good. And it was a free pattern. So if you want to check it out, I do recommend it. All right, next up, I called this in my Ravelry my Fall Leaves cowl because I just felt like it was the perfect fall colors in these like reds and oranges and greens and a little bit of purple. And this is based on the Fisherman's Rib Cowl and Scarf by Pearl Soho, but I made quite a lot of adjustments. So I knit this on a different needle size. I don't remember what their pattern calls for, but I knit it on US 7. I knit it like I was knitting the scarf. So the cowl, if I was knitting the cowl, the Fisherman's Rib would go vertical because you knit it in the round, but I just kind of wanted to knit straight. I don't know. I didn't want to think about knitting in the round. I just wanted to knit Fisherman's Rib. But I like cowls. I wear them more often. So I did just graft it together at the end to make it a cowl with a little twist in it. So it's based off of that. I did, it's a different construction and different needle size and a different number of stitches. I'm pretty sure I don't remember if I went with more stitches or less, but I changed the stitch count as well. So I believe all of the information is on my Ravelry. So if you're interested, and then yeah, it's meant to be, I made it so you could, wrap it around twice. If you see me looking over here, it's where my, I can see myself on my screen. So for like styling things, it makes it a little easier. But this was yarn that I picked up in Boonville at a little fiber festival they had there during the, county fair. And it is Rainbow Dye Works yarn. It is 50% Tussa Silk and 50% Merino. And it is lovely. It's so squishy and soft and just like, oh my gosh, it's absolutely gorgeous. I love this yarn so, so, so much. And it was like so affordable. Like I think I knit this whole scarf for like $30 or something like that. And it's like, it feels so luxurious. It's amazing. And yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about it. So I started this on October 3rd and I finished it on October 10th. So it knit up really fast. It was really easy and mindless. Next up is my last hat of the year. This is the Yet Another Cable Hat by Robin Fiore. This is another free pattern. This I knit with more yarn that I picked up in Boonville from a different vendor. This is from the Mendocino Wool and Fiber Co. And this was a 50% merino, 50% alpaca Aran weight yarn that they had, again, with like very little information. There wasn't like a label or much information at all. So, and yeah, I just knit this. It says it's just yet another cable hat. So you got these big chunky cables going up and then the little tiny twists in between them, a little folded brim. And yeah, I've been wearing this a lot. I really like it. I think it's really comfy and cozy and warm. And yeah, it's a good time. I might have done another cable repeat to make it just a little bit more room at the crown, but honestly, I still think it looks really cute like this. So I don't know that I would have if I did it again. But I really recommend it. It was easy and it's just really easy to wear and I really like it. But I started this on November 5th and finished it on November 9th. So again, very quick knit. Nothing but good things to say about it. And then finally, on my accessory tour, this is the Cargill Cowl. It's a pattern by Rybka Pouches. I knit this in, it was clover yarn, mohair 100%, which is also yarn I picked up in Japan. And it's like it's just mohair. There's no silk or anything in it. And it's like a bulky weight mohair yarn. So I did knit it up at a DK weight gauge because that's what this pattern is for. And I figured it would just be fine. And I do think it worked out. Once I draped it, once I blocked it, it got nice and drapey. It was like real stiff before I blocked it. So, and my plan was I had bought 5 balls of this yarn and I just kind of wanted to use it up. And I ended up using like 2 1/4. Like I have more than half of the yarns left still, so I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. But I like this. It has the dip stitch that she used in her Cargill sweater, and then a little bit of ribbing at the top and the bottom, and it's simple. I have never worn this and I don't know how to wear it. I think it's pretty. I just think it's a little like, let's see. It's a little bit of like an awkward height. Like, I don't know if I maybe should have made it taller so that it like folded, or if I should make it, I don't know. I think it's because it's fuzzy. It's like, I didn't want to make it taller because I didn't want it to be like in my face. But I do feel like it's a little bit awkward and it's a little hard to style. So I think it's gorgeous. But I don't know what to do with it. I will say for it being 100% mohair, it's not itchy. This is so soft. It's really, really nice. And I do think it's really pretty, and I really love the cream color. So maybe I'll figure it out. I feel like my issue is it feels, again, like a little fancy because it's fuzzy and like a little shiny, and like the Cargill, the dip stitch pattern feels a little elevated. And I often am not dressing in a way that this makes sense. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with it, but I am happy I made it. Like, it was a fun process knit, and it was fun to see some of my like vacation yarn knit up. I started this on November 14th and I finished it on November 16th. So again, really, really quick. But yeah, we got a couple, I'm going to sit down because we have a couple of gift knits in a row. So I'm just going to like rest my legs for a second. But next one is, speaking of like small and fast, it's a small bracelet that I knit for my niece. She kept asking for a bracelet, and despite the fact that I'm pretty sure that a wool bracelet is just a sweatband, I didn't want to disappoint her, so I whipped something up for her. And I just went with a little strip of double knitting. I basically followed I literally went to my Tonight top pattern and like set it up the same way because I knew I liked this width. I used the leftover yarn from my first pair of socks, and then when I felt like it was long enough, I just sort of added some extra like threads to the end of it and braided them together to make a long like tie. And yeah, fits her wrist perfectly. It's cute. It's simple and nothing crazy. So that being said, it did take me a couple weeks. So I started this on November 5th and finished it on November 18th. But that's just because I was working on other things. Like, it's not like I sat down and like really worked on this for 2 weeks. Overall, it probably took me like 2 hours total. But she did really like it, and it was very cute. All right, and then we go straight into another gift knit. It's getting real gift knit heavy in here from this point on. But this was my biggest project of the whole year. This was the Hue Shift Afghan by Karen DeMiller Lawrence. It's a Knit Picks pattern, and I got it as a kit from Knit Picks. They sent all the yarn together. It's knit entirely in Knit Picks Mighty Stitch, which is I think it's like 85% acrylic and 15% superwash wool. And there's like an array of colors. The colors are, we have black for the edging, and we have navy, Gulfstream, Marina, Mint, Alfalfa, Canary, Satsuma, Serrano, Fairy Tale, and Mulberry. So 11 colors altogether, including the black. This took me 368 days to do some math there, sorry. I started on November 17th, 2023, and I finished it on November 20th of 2024. So this is a long-term project. And this was a gift for my oldest niece. So not the same one who got the bracelet, but my oldest niece. And the goal was to have it ready for her by Christmas, which obviously I accomplished, and I gave it to her under the tree on Christmas, and she was absolutely ecstatic. Like, loves it to pieces, and it makes me so happy. Like, I'm very happy to work on something for that long if it's going to be loved that much. But yeah, this was a long-term project I was working on constantly throughout the year. If you catch up on my podcast, there's just every now and then I mention the blanket. Like, it's just always, it was a background project the entire year, and it came out stunning. Like, I was so unbelievably proud of this, and yeah, cannot say enough good things. If you're thinking about knitting this project, I highly recommend it. It's worth it. It's just impressive, and it's not necessarily hard to make. Like, it just looks really impressive. And I honestly really liked the process because each square took like maybe an hour. So like every individual step was not that hard to do. And then overall, over the course of a year, it just added up into something really, really cool. All right, next up is what I think is my best fitting sweater of the entire year. This is my Oslo Sweater by Petite Knit. This is knit in Silver Pennies yarn in the colorway. We have, so Silver Pennies, this is her Yak U base, the sock base in the colorway Aquamarine, I believe. Yep. And then I held it together with her Fluff and Stuff, which is her alpaca silk in the colorway Jade. And together they make this beautiful teal green color that like I over the moon about. I think is so pretty. And yeah, this is the Oslo Sweater by Petite Knit. It's my only Petite Knit pattern I have ever knit. But it fits so good. Oh my god. Like, it has this super thick double knit collar, which I really like. I did add elastic into this as well. And it helps just keep it perfect. It is drop shoulder design. It has a shaping as you like bring the sleeves around, and then it has a little bit of waist shaping. And I think just all of these little details combine to make a sweater that just fits so nicely. Like, I just don't feel like there's any bulk where there shouldn't be bulk, and it doesn't feel tight anywhere where it shouldn't feel tight. Like, it just fits well. I did crop it from what the pattern said, but that being said, it's not cropped. Like, I just didn't knit as far as Petite Knit said to knit, and I think it probably grew a little because of the superwash, but nothing crazy. And then same thing, like the sleeves are just a little long, but like the perfect amount of long, not like too long. They're just really, really cozy. So this is one of my favorite things that I've ever knit. I think it is just ludicrously pretty. It is also my most expensive sweater by quite a lot. Like, I don't have details on how much everything costs, but I do just know that when I paid for the yarn for this, I was like, and I don't think I can like justify indie dyed, 2-stranded sweaters very often. Like, this is a treat, and I am aware of that, and it is not like normal for me, but boy, am I going to appreciate it now that I have it. For the timeline on this was started on October 9th and finished on November 23rd. And it has about 8.5 inches of positive ease on me, and I knit the size 2. So really, really love it. I'm not seeing any wear and tear on it yet. I haven't had enough time to wear it a ton, but I wear it every single chance that I get. And I'm pretty sure like my family is going to start thinking that this is the only sweater that I own if I don't start wearing other things soon. All right, and we're getting into another round of gift knits. This should be the last round. So I'll go through these super duper fast. So I did knit 2 Rybka pouches for my nieces for Christmas. This is the reason that I gift knitted. Like, I just couldn't resist knitting things for my nieces. They're so cute. So I knit the pink one using, it was Knit Picks Alpaca Cloud Fingering in the colorway Algernon, which I've had in my stash for like years and I've never known what to do. So I was like, this is perfect. And then the blue one was leftover sock yarn from this sweater. And I held both of them with a strand of the Ziggy Stardust mohair for my Arthur cardigan, which I think kind of gave the like iridescent effect of like scales. So I was really happy with that. And yeah, basically followed the pattern exactly. I think these are super cute. I think if you're on the fence about knitting a Rybka pouch, you should do it because they're the cutest and I love them. These are super fast. I started both of them on December 11th and finished both of them on December 12th. So it took a day. And I ended up stuffing them with little like lip smackers chopsticks and hanging them off the Christmas tree at Christmas. And they were over the moon about them. And my youngest niece was like, how did you make this? And was just so excited. And yeah, those were great. Then I knit another couple of Christmas ornaments as gifts. These are the Olive's Christmas Heart pattern by Knitting for Olive, designed by Pernille Larsen, who is the designer for Knitting for Olive. I knit one of these for the owner of the dance studio that I work at, and another for a friend of ours who lives on the California coast. And they're super cute, again, super fast knit. I started these on December 17th and finished both of them on December 19th. So easy peasy. And it's really fun to just do these with scrap yarn and just sort of like mix and match in your stash and see what looks good together. So yeah, I don't have a ton to say about these. There were some like gauge issues with like the red and green one was knit with, they're both my spin cycle yarns that I use for my shift cowl. And so they're the same like type of yarns. They were easy to get the gauges to match. But the dark gray and light gray one were two very different yarns. And so I did have to do a little bit of fiddling with like my rows and stuff to make them match, but it's a very easy pattern to just eyeball that and make it work. So next up was my Christmas socks that I knit for my sister-in-law for Christmas. So these are again the I'm So Basic sock by Summer Lee. The only modification I made is that I knit the cuff a bit longer, and I sized down a needle size for just the cuff just so it'd be a little bit tighter and snugger. I did do the 64 stitch sock and just followed everything else as, you know, the pattern called for, and it came out great. I used Knit Pick Stroll again for these, but it was the Stroll Tweed and the color Barn Door Heather, and then I did the contrasting bits in the same yarn in the colorway Sequoia Heather. I cast these on November 23rd, and I bound them off on December 20th, so about a month, but like that was not a month of monogamous knitting. I just kind of kept forgetting to work on these. So all right. And then second to last, we have my sample knit that I did for Treehouse Knits. This is the Ponderosa Sweater by Wool and Pine. I started this on December 1st and cast it off on December 27th. Like I said, this is a sample knit, so it is in the mail on its way to Lauren of Treehouse Knits right now, so I don't have it to show you. But I knit the size 5, and I did it in her yak silk finkering in the colorway Scotland, which was absolutely stunning yarn for this project. It's a mostly superwash merino, I think, and then 20% silk and a little bit of yak. I don't remember the exact, I think 10% yak. But it had amazing drape. The yak gave it like this little bit of a halo. It was just so lovely to work with. And this is knit in 2 panels and then seamed together, and then you knit the sleeves in the round. And so it was my first time seaming a garment. I thought it went very smoothly. It took a couple of tries. There's some trial and error for sure in this pattern to get like your seaming rates correct and your pickup rates for the sleeves correct. And it was also one of those projects that looked like pretty bad before I blocked it, just because it's knit at a very open gauge. It's fingering weight yarn, but the front panel I did with a US 7 needle, and then the stockinette panel I did with a US 5, so it's just quite open. Once you blocked it, it looked lovely though. All right, last but certainly not least, this is my final finished object for 2024. I finished this at 10 p.m. on December 31st, 2024, so really snuck it in there. But this is my Wishbone Sweater by Veronica Lindberg, also known as Kudovikika. This was like, when I think of 2024 knitting, it is this sweater. Like, I talked about it so much, I dreamed about it, when I picked up garment knitting, I had this in mind to make, and now it exists and I can wear it on my body, and I'm so excited. So this is, like I said, the Wishbone Sweater. I knit this in 1 strand of Sandnes Garn Double Sunday in the colorway Deep Red, held with 1 strand of Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway Claret. I talked about this at length in my last podcast episode, so if you want to go check out some of the like snafus that came up and like why this took me so long to knit, you can go check it out there. But the pattern itself is lovely. It's so easy to follow. I had no problems with it. The cabling is very straightforward. What took a long time is that it is entirely in 1x1 half twisted rib. So like it's just a lot of ribbing for a very large sweater. But I mean, you can't beat, you just can't beat it. It looks so good. I did potentially knit the sleeves too long. It could be argued that they are too long. I'm not sure that I care. If I care, I will go back and fix it at some point. But right now I don't care. I'm just too excited to have the sweater. And then the body is definitely cropped. So I think if I'd had more yarn, I would have knit the body 1 repeat longer. But I was like fully out of yarn. And I just wanted the sweater to be done. So I called it good. And I think it's a very cute cropped length. I don't think it's like unwearable cropped. I just think it is cropped. All right. I knit these small to medium size, and when I measured this last night, it turns out I had about 5.5 inches of positive ease, which the pattern calls for 4 to 6 inches, so nailed it. And I started this on March 12th, guys, and finished on December 31st, so it was by far the longest garment whip that I had this year, and the main reason is just because it's very heavy and fuzzy pattern, and so once summer came along, I put it aside and just sort of forgot about it for quite some time. But I'm so happy that I, made myself take it out and finish it, because I just feel so good in this. Like, it got this like tall, like mock neck. Like, it's a very stunning, like, statement sweater. I do think I need to make another like lighter weight sweater, like a fingering weight or something like that, in the same color, so that I can wear this color all the time, because I just love it so much. It's so good. But yeah, that's it for all of my 2024 makes. This is like so many things. I don't know how I knit this many things. I don't know if I'll knit this many things going forward, but it was a really fun year, and I'm really grateful for what I was able to get done. And yeah, if that's it for you, if you don't care about my last couple of stats, that's totally fine, and you can be on your way. But if you are curious about just a couple of interesting stats, I just have a couple. So first of all, number of like things that I used fluff in, like that I held another ball of fluff in, at 24% of my projects had some sort of fluff held in them. And that includes the other types of things like the Rybka pouches. If you just go for garments, then 14%, oh, nope, sorry, that's the wrong thing. 50% of my sweaters had fluff in them. So 4 out of 8 of the sweaters were fluffy. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I feel like it's good to have a variety. So I like my fluffy sweaters. I like owning some without them too, because they're just a little bit more practical. Of the yarn weights that I used, like finished yarn weights, so like if I held a fingering with a strand of mohair, I would consider that a DK weight for this stat. I had 1 project at a lace weight, that was my Ranunculus, 9 projects at a fingering weight, 9 at a DK, 2 at a sport, 6 were worsted, 2 Aran, and 2 bulky. So I was a little surprised by how many fingering there were. That one kind of threw me. I don't know, I didn't realize I had knit that many things that were just solely at a fingering weight gauge. Of yarns that I used more than once, Knit Picks was by far my most used brand of yarn. I knit 8 things using Knit Picks yarn. 2 of them were like small ornaments or something like that. So, I mean, take what you want from that, but I used it 8 times, which is way more than anything else. The next closest is Knitting for Olive. I knit 3 things in Knitting for Olive yarn as the main yarn. So I guess technically 4, because I didn't have the mohair for this one included. So 4 things in Knitting for Olive yarn, and then 3 things using Miss Babs yarn. She was my next one. For gifts, I gifted or got rid of, like gifted or sample knit, I guess is the way I'd put that, 38% of the things that I knit this year. So it was 11 items are no longer in my position because they were either gifted or sent away as a sample knit. And considering I was used to be at like almost 100% gift knitting, I think we've made progress, so I will take it. And then knitting times. The average time for me to finish a project for everything all together, including this, including my year-long blanket that I made, was 46.6 days. And then my average for sweaters in particular was 71.8 days. And so that average was a lot lower before I put in the this one. I think it was closer. I think it was in like the 50s or the 40s before I put this one in, and it really like brought it way up. But still, I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't know, it's just interesting stats. I could get into them more and probably tease out more information, but I'm not that motivated to do that. So there's some quick ideas of what my knitting life looked like this year. If you stuck around till the end, wow, thank you so much. This has been a long video. I have no idea what it's going to come out to time-wise, but I know I'm starting to lose my voice, and This is a lot of fun. I like going back through these and just kind of seeing the things I've tried this year and the things I liked, the things I didn't like, and sort of what I've learned from all of it and taking that into next year. So I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you had some fun with this. I hope you got some knitting in, and I will see you next time. Bye.